women need to understand that giving the guy what he wants in a bedroom is really important to the guys. I know it's important to women too. And I mean, some guys don't get that. That's not this podcast today. I'm trying to talk to the women more specifically, but there's that. I got about 10 minutes left. Maybe any gals calling in? No, we got a lot of gals in the chat that are talking, but I know you're always afraid to call in. And then the last thing that I got here, which is also controversial, is that if all you women want the guy that's on the top shelf, you want the competent guy, the successful guy, the resourceful guy, the 6'6s, that's another one that comes up a lot. 6 foot tall, 6-figure income, 600 horsepower car, 6 inches in the pants, six pack abs, 6 months out of a relationship. You want all these, you have this long list of the painted picture of the guy that you want, which are all on the top shelf. These are the top 5% of men. And he's resourceful, and he's competent, and he's successful and influential, and men want to be him and women want to be with him. Do you think for a second that demanding exclusivity on a sexual basis is going to lock that guy down? It probably won't. He might lie to you. He might nod his head and say, okay, fine, I'll do it. I'm not going to cheat on you or whatever. It's just you and I sort of thing. But men and women are different. See, women think more emotionally, of course, I feel like. So women go, I just feel like that, because I've asked for your commitment that, we should be sexually exclusive and all that sort of stuff. And, what I've learned in the last couple of years anyway, is that commitment and sexual exclusivity can be separated in a long-term relationship. I've seen lots of guys, I've talked to lots of men that are successful. They're, I talk about the paths to wealth, C-suite jobs, so CEOs, CFOs, licensed professionals, doctors, lawyers, influential people. They're actors, musicians, athletes, social media influencers, whatever it happens to be. They sell high-end items. They're getting paid a fat stack of cash for selling a $10 million home, jets, yachts, expensive cars, stuff like that. They're in STEM. Unfortunately, a lot of the STEM guys are some of the worst offenders out there for being plugged in beta males. But the FANG companies, Facebook, Amazon, they're tech leads. They make $1 million a year, total compensation. Entrepreneurs. A lot of these guys have options, and they've worked hard to be successful. And you're asking them to deny one of the greatest benefits of being successful, being on the top shelf, which is sexual access to other women, to have optionality. And a lot of these guys can separate commitment from sexual exclusivity. Again, women think emotionally from, with their head. I feel like that it should just be like this, because women get jealous for different reasons than men do. Women get jealous. See, when a guy cheats, the first thing she's going to ask is, well, did you love her? When a woman cheats, the first thing a guy asks is, did you fuck him? They're not as concerned with the act of sex as men are. Men are far, far more concerned with it. Women, on the other hand, they lose when a guy takes his resources, attention, and protection. Again, let's go widescreen here. And if that's the entire timeline throughout history that we've existed as upright, modern hunter-gatherer, like humans, as we are today, which is not that long. It's like, from an evolutionary perspective, I could pluck a beard hair and hold it at the end. And that's the representation of the last 10,000 years where we had agriculture. But for the vast majority of time, we operate as nomadic hunter-gatherers, and guys would sleep with other women, and women would just be okay with it, because it didn't matter if provisioning, protection, food, and resources were still there. They're worried that they're going to lose that because, 50,000 years ago, if he were to take away food, protection, resources, and all that sort of stuff, that would spell certain death for most women and their children. So they're always going to be concerned about that. Like, despite modern times, skyscrapers, roads, internet, cell phones, social media, dating apps, all that sort of stuff, that's very, very modern convenience today that hasn't existed for the vast majority of time that we've operated as modern, anatomically correct humans, as we are today. So men are actually able to separate sexual exclusivity from commitment. You can do 100% commitment with a woman and give her 99% sexual exclusivity. As long as you don't embarrass her, rub it in her face. Some lady shows up on her front door, knocking on it, saying, "Hey, I've got his kid, surprise." She don't want to deal with any of that shit, because that's where the loss of resources. She doesn't want to think that you're in love with another chick. And I get that you maybe have an intimate interactions with women. They think that that's love. It's not. Seeing lots of guys when they're traveling, whatever instance it happens to be, they do it. They go home. They still love their family. They still do the Christmases, the Thanksgiving, the birthdays, the summer vacation, all that shit. And she just doesn't care. She just looks the other way because she's got what she wants. And I think a lot of women today, they've got very strict boundaries on sexual exclusivity. And I've spent a lot more time writing about this in my second book in a couple of different areas, and it'll all make sense to you when you get a copy of that later on this year. But one of the things women can do, which will improve their chances of locking down a high value man, is not being so strict with a guy on sexual monogamy. You can get commitment from him without getting 100% of that. And you may not like it. Like I said earlier, there's a lot of things that women don't like, but they will put up with them, and they can actually be good for the relationship and a attraction for him. See, because we know that women vet men by looking at what other women are doing with that guy. So if there's a new woman that enters a room, she's attractive and she's looking for a high value guy, she's hunting for it, sort of thing. And he shows up, and then she sees him surrounded by other attractive women. What's a good example of this? Well, just use somebody like Dan Bilzerian. He's not particularly tall. I think he's 5'8" or 5'9" or something like that. So he's not like, a lot of women have a stricture, you got to be 6 foot tall. So he's not particularly tall. Some people say his haircut's kind of goofy or whatever, but he manages, and he's always managed to, and he will continue to do so, because he can easily surround himself with a lot of beautiful women, and women use other beautiful women to vet men. Oh, I don't have to fucking do any work. I see a whole bunch of attractive women around that guy. That's a good guy, right? And then they lock him down and they remove the women from the equation. And what ends up happening is their attraction and the desire for him starts to go down. One of the problems that I've seen with a lot of dudes over time, I talk about this in a lot more detail in the book, but a lot of guys express frustration because over time they end up giving them more. When a guy loves a woman, he'll give her. He'll be very generous with his resources, right? That's how women can gauge how much a guy likes you. So ladies, if you want to know how much a guy likes you, you can gauge it by how much he gives you, okay? How much he's willing to give you. And you shouldn't be asking for it. It should just be something that he's wanting to do because he loves you and he cares for you, sort of stuff like that. All right, guys, I really hope that you enjoyed that clip. If you want to check out the full-length podcast episode, you can find that right over here. Also, make sure you visit my website over here, where you'll find my supplements, the opportunity to book me privately one-on-one for coaching, and most importantly, my new School of Unplugging, which you'll find on the courses tab. Newer to the channel, hit subscribe.